Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're looking at something that at first glance looks like your standard run-of-the-mill international diplomacy. But actually, scratch that. It's really a highly calculated corporate roadshow. We are decoding Prime Minister Modi's recent five-nation tour. And look, let's forget politics for a second. We're going to analyze this as exactly what it is, a strategic, super aggressive pitch to capture fleeing global capital.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To really understand the pitch, you've got to understand the market. Look at the world right now. It's practically on fire. We've got the Russia and Ukraine conflict, instability in the Middle East with Iran and Israel, unpredictable tariff policies from Trump, supply chains fracturing all over the place, and energy prices just bouncing up and down. This isn't just distant news, right? This is pure chaos that threatens the price of literally everything you buy. This is the high-stakes backdrop, the big reason why global capital is extremely nervous right now.
So here is our investor prospectus for this explainer. We'll start with the global geopolitical storm, then look at how India's CEO goes to work. After that, why the Nordics matter, the China Plus One strategy, the reality of India's FDI, and finally, why execution is absolutely everything. All right, Section 1, the global geopolitical storm, finding opportunity in chaos. Amidst all this massive global disruption we just talked about, one country is quietly but very actively positioning itself as a safe haven for panicked investors. And this single quote perfectly captures India's opportunistic message. While everyone is fighting, come build with us. I mean, wow. It's a remarkably clear value proposition delivered right in the middle of intense global instability. It's like offering a life raft when the whole fleet is sinking. Moving on to Section 2. India's CEO goes to work, the travelogue of a global sales pitch. To really grasp this whole maneuver, you kind of have to reframe Prime Minister Modi from a traditional politician to basically the global salesman-in-chief of a massive enterprise. But looking at this incredibly aggressive international push naturally brings up a logical question. Is India facing some hidden economic problem? Usually, when leaders travel this aggressively to hunt down foreign investment, it signals domestic desperation, like they need a rescue. Now, what's really interesting here is how the numbers completely knock down that desperation myth. India is projecting a GDP growth of around 7.4% for the 2026 financial year. To put that in perspective, while a lot of other major economies are literally stalling out right now, India is surging ahead. So they aren't dealing from panic. They are dealing from a position of real power. This isn't a rescue mission at all. It's a total repositioning. Just think about the aggressive pacing of this May campaign. We're talking the UAE, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and Italy, all back to back to back. This itinerary absolutely wasn't some random diplomatic junket to shake hands and take photos. It was a targeted, calculated strike going exactly where the money, the advanced tech, and the strategic influence live. All right, Section 3, why the Nordics matter. The India-Nordic Summit in Oslo. So during this tour, India sat down with Nordic nations, countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Iceland, and basically treated them like the ultimate venture capitalists. Sure, they aren't these massive military superpowers, but they are incredibly rich in exactly what India wants right now: green energy expertise and sovereign wealth capital. Look at Norway. They control one of the biggest sovereign wealth funds on the planet, and that is exactly the kind of enormous, patient, long-term capital India desperately wants to attract. And this builds a completely new narrative for the country. Think about it. 20 years ago, the pitch was pretty simple: cheap labor and outsourcing, right? But today, the pitch to these Nordic investors is AI cooperation, green hydrogen, digital public infrastructure, and even India's Himadri Arctic Research Station. It's a total top-to-bottom rebrand from being just a low-cost hub to being a highly advanced technology partner. Which brings us to Section 4, the China Plus One strategy, capitalizing on the macroeconomic shift. The huge macro trend driving all of this is that global companies are, quite frankly, terrified of their overdependence on China. Supply chains are fragmenting everywhere. Enter India's strategy, which is basically the smart shopkeeper. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. When every other shop in the global market is facing a massive storm, the smart shopkeeper opens their doors even wider and says, "Hey, business is safe here, come on in." So here is the shiny brochure they're handing out to these disrupted customers. A massive market, a very young workforce, a democratic system, and rapidly growing infrastructure. When global companies are this anxious, you know they aren't holding out for absolute perfection. They are just looking for relative stability. And this pitch makes India look like a very heavy, reliable anchor in a super turbulent storm. Now for Section 5, the reality of India's FDI, the balance sheet. But hey, as an explainer, we have to look objectively past the slick marketing pitch and check the actual balance sheet. The big headlines always focus on gross FDI, the money flowing into the country, which looks absolutely phenomenal. But the net FDI reality, that shows money is also flowing out, revealing a much weaker net retention of capital. Basically, the money is visiting, but it isn't moving in permanently. And this right here is exactly why India urgently needs sustained, long-term capital. They need that sticky, permanent capital to hit massive, audacious targets, like becoming a $5 trillion economy. This completely explains the urgency behind the tour. But remember that critical difference we talked about earlier? Having strategic urgency to meet a huge goal is very, very different from economic desperation. India is essentially using global instability as a high-speed accelerator. Finally, Section 6, execution over announcements, converting frameworks into factories. So what actually happens after all the smiles and photo ops are over? Well, the crucial point is this: highways need traffic. India has signed multiple trade frameworks, like the FTA agreement with European nations. But those diplomatic agreements, they're just empty, paved highways. This five-nation tour is a massive attempt to put actual vehicles on those highways, to convert those paper frameworks into real, functioning factories, and relocate its supply chains. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. Will these global announcements actually convert into real factories, real jobs, and long-term economic gains for ordinary Indians? Identifying a huge opportunity in a global storm is a brilliant strategy, for sure. And hey, making flashy announcements is easy. But in this completely new global economic order, execution is absolutely everything. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.